Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into that visceral, agonizing experience of hitting the wall, and more importantly, exactly how you can construct an absolutely unbreakable mental blueprint to smash right through it. You know that moment, right? When physical exhaustion peaks during a grueling event, your brain gets super loud, it panics, and it desperately tries to force you to just quit. But here's the thing. Elite performers don't survive this extreme pain by just ignoring it. Actually, they survive by taking total, absolute control of their internal dialogue before the competition even begins. So let's unpack exactly how they pull that off.
Let's start with a question we can all probably relate to. Have you ever promised yourself, like, I'm going to push through this tough workout, or maybe a massive work project, only to silently negotiate your way out of it the exact second your muscles start to burn or your brain feels totally fried? Yeah, it happens to the best of us. When our bodies literally scream at us to quit during a high-stakes challenge, our natural instinct is to start bargaining. We immediately focus on the pain, the fatigue, and that overwhelming distance we still have left to go.
And here is where we run into a huge problem. We falsely assume that sheer willpower is gonna be enough. We kind of just hope that in the heat of the moment we'll magically find the mental toughness to push through. But as this comparison brilliantly shows, relying purely on willpower is a trap. An untethered mind actually defaults straight into a destructive survival mode. If you step into a high-pressure situation without a concrete mental blueprint, you're basically leaving your entire mindset completely up to chance.
So the absolutely crucial point here is that if you wait until the pain actually hits to try and talk yourself out of it, well, you're already too late. You've entered what we call the negative spiral. This is a psychological survival mode where your mind actively, desperately searches for every single excuse to just throw in the towel. And remember, in any endurance event or high-stakes scenario, your body is ultimately going to do exactly what your mind tells it to do. Period.
To figure out how to actually conquer this wall, we need to look at someone who has completely mastered the art of mental architecture. We're talking about ultramarathoner Gerda Steyn. To overcome those absolute breaking points, we really need to look at the exact strategies used by one of the greatest long-distance runners on the planet. But what's really fascinating about Gerda is that she isn't your typical elite athlete who was groomed for the track since childhood. Not at all.
Let's look at her totally unconventional journey. She actually grew up on a small farm in South Africa, where she learned immense, gritty resilience. She realized early on that a single hailstorm could literally wipe out a year's worth of work, and you just had to pick yourself up and keep going. Later, she went to school to become a quantity surveyor, and incredibly didn't even discover her running talent until she was working in Dubai in her mid-20s. Ultimately, she used that analytical, highly structured surveyor mindset to coach herself into becoming an absolute champion, winning the grueling Two Oceans Marathon 6 consecutive times and shattering Comrades marathon records.
Now, what if I told you that her secret to surviving a brutal 90-kilometer ultramarathon isn't just having superhuman lungs? What if it's actually about assigning specific family members to entirely different kilometers of the race? I know, it sounds a bit wild, right? But this reveals her ultimate weapon. She completely, 100% masters her internal dialogue before she ever even steps up to the starting line. She doesn't leave a single kilometer to chance.
Check out how she breaks this down. She builds this highly specific, literal mental itinerary. From kilometers 0 to 5, she is only allowed to think about her dad and the positive lessons he taught her. Then, from 5 to 10, she shifts her brain entirely to her sister. From 10 to 15, it's all about her husband. She actually looks forward to these distance markers just so she can actively switch to her next pre-planned thought. It's a highly engineered cognitive sequence, kind of like a giant puzzle she solves while running.
And by having this super rigid schedule, she totally prevents that negative spiral we talked about earlier. Whenever something unexpected derails her during a race, these pre-planned thoughts act as a mental anchor. It completely transforms her from someone who simply reacts to pain in her environment into someone who actively dictates her own performance. Because her brain is so occupied with this schedule, her mind literally never has the empty space required to start complaining or bargaining.
Now, Gerda doesn't pretend the dark moments won't happen. That would be naive. Instead, she proactively accepts that extreme pain is definitely coming. But rather than panicking when it hits, she programs a specific emotional response in advance. When the agony really sets in, she just deploys her script. I'll get through this moment, and after a while, I'll feel good again. It's so simple, yet so incredibly powerful.
Okay, let's dive into this wild scenario. Imagine you are running up Constantia Neck, which is one of the most notoriously brutal hills in South African racing. Would you be grimacing in pure agony or smiling like you just won the lottery? On South Africa's most punishing hills, Gerda actively chooses to smile, even when her legs are absolutely screaming, and she frankly does not feel like smiling at all.
To survive this, she literally hacks her own psychology. Here is her sequence. First, she forces a physical smile. Second, she uses that smile to acknowledge the crowds. And third, she actively draws external energy from their cheering. She pulls this motivation directly from the spectators, exactly when her own internal physical reserves have run completely dry. It is a brilliant, calculated, engineered response to total exhaustion.
But, even pre-planned thoughts aren't always enough, which is exactly why she constructs these deep, multiple backup layers of purpose. Early on in her career, it was all about proving herself. Then, as she grew, it scaled up to representing her country at the Olympics. Today, it's about inspiring the next generation and showing everyday people that they can overcome massive obstacles. So if one source of motivation suddenly dries up mid-race, boom, the next layer is immediately ready to deploy.
Furthermore, when the tension gets so incredibly high that her body literally starts to tighten up and cramp, she uses these specific, super simple mental images. She'll think about the color blue, or look up at the sky, or visualize flowing water. She uses these visual cues to deliberately remind her physical body to just drop its shoulders and relax. She's using mental imagery to directly override physical tension. It's a real game changer.
So, what does this all mean for us? It all boils down to one core philosophy. Take control of your mind before your mind takes control of you. You absolutely do not have to be an elite, record-breaking athlete to apply Gerda's strategy. You can take this exact mental architecture and apply it to your own grueling work projects, massive exams, or even just your daily workout. Stop letting the moment dictate how you respond and start scripting your mindset in advance.
To wrap up this explainer, I want you to take agency over your own thoughts by answering this final question for yourself. What is your pre-planned thought going to be the next time you hit the wall? I want you to figure out exactly what you're going to think about when things get undeniably hard, before you even begin the task. Let me know your mental blueprint down in the comments and keep building that mental architecture.